business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by board members. I'll introduce the people on the dais here with me. To my far left is Recording Secretary Cindy Benson, Superintendent Larry Francois, board members Amy Cast, Sandy Hayes, and Kimberly D'Angelo. Board member Dawn McCravey is absent today due to illness. I am Janet Quinn, and I currently serve as president of the board. Agendas for this meeting as well as minutes from our previous meeting are available at the table at the back. And if you are here to address the board on agenda items, please sign in on the clipboard that's on the table with the agendas, and you'll have an opportunity near the beginning of the meeting for your comments. First order of business is the superintendent's report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. On June 23rd, I had the opportunity to meet with the incoming CPAC 2015-16 leadership. It was a great opportunity to discuss the priorities of CPAC, the many ways they're working to support special needs students across our district, including their partnership with the North Shore Schools Foundation to support additional classroom innovation grants that were awarded towards the end of the school year. They've created a new co-president position whose role will be focused on building stronger relationships with district staff, so we'll welcome the addition of that position. And we had a very productive conversation around the advocacy and advisory roles that CPAC play. On June 25th, I met with Claudette Whiting, and appreciate again Director D'Angelo for making that connection with us. President Quinn was a part of that meeting as well. Claudette has extensive background working with diversity and equity issues, particularly at the corporate leadership levels. She's interested in working with the NSD Board if there is a match with her background and skills and the board's needs. I know this is something that the board will be discussing later in the meeting as you talk about your scheduled training on August 25th. From June 26th through 30th, I was at the WASA AWSP Summer Conference in Spokane. Our WASA board meeting on Saturday morning coincided with the recently announced legislative agreement on the 2015-17 operating budget, although details weren't available at that time, so we were all doing our best at speculating on what might be the final deal. At that meeting, I didn't act quickly enough, and so I was selected as WASA Secretary Officer position for the 2015-16 school year. During the conference, I attended some interesting keynote presentations and sessions, and then participated with Kathleen Poole and Spencer Welch and North Shore principals David Wellington, Joanne Todd, and Dana Whitehurst in a session that we provided sharing our North Shore Leadership Program, and that was very well received by the folks who were in attendance there. Last week on July 8th, I attended the Bothell Chamber monthly lunch meeting, which was again, as they've done in recent years in July, a legislative focus. So Senator Rosemary McAuliffe, Representative Derek Stanford, and King County Council Member Rod Dombrowski were in attendance and spoke to the priorities and the things they're working on in their respective positions. And it was actually at this meeting on the 8th that Senator McAuliffe announced the final agreement on issues surrounding the delay of implementation of Initiative 1351 and the assessment legislation that brought the longest legislative session in state history to a close. On June 9th, last Thursday, our June 23rd bond sale successfully closed, and I know we've already received many documents and analyses related to that. I again want to thank Lydia Selly, our business services team, the folks we work with for Piper Jaffray, K&L Gates, and our independent financial advisor for facilitating a successful bond sale and achieving great value for the North Shore taxpaying community. Also on June 9th, along with Director Cass, attended the North Shore Schools Foundation board meeting, and the board discussed their next round of district grants, which should be formally presented after the start of the school year. And as always, the foundation continues to strongly support our district and align their priorities in giving to our key areas of work. And finally, on yesterday, we met with our equity and diversity consultant team, and we're joined by President Quinn and Director Cast. We received much positive feedback around the general soundness of the action plan approved by the board on June 23rd. We had a great discussion about moving forward with the focus groups and the data analysis work contained in the action plan. And I just want to continue to say I sincerely appreciate the advice, the counsel, the guidance, and the investment shown by various members of this consultant team, several of whom are operating strictly in a voluntary capacity to help us move forward positively and productively.
Thank you, Larry. Next item on the agenda is association and public comments. The North Shore School District Board of Directors has set aside a period of up to 60 minutes to receive updates and comments from association leaders and citizens from our community. The board expects speakers to address matters related to district operations, policies, procedures, and agenda items under consideration by the board. Comments should not make reference to any employee or representative from the district by name. If interested, there is a complaint process available through the Office of the Superintendent. Please note that because of the public governance process, the board may ask clarifying questions regarding topics not on the meeting's agenda, but will likely defer discussion to a future meeting if warranted in order for staff to prepare any necessary background information for board members to review and for the discussion item to be placed on a publicized agenda for the benefit of any other parties that might be interested. Alternatively, a district employee or board member may respond to individuals offering public comment at a later date. When addressing the board, please state your name clearly for our records. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There is a timer that will sound when your time has expired. We appreciate your participation in the governance process, and we'll start with association leaders. Sherry, I think you're it today.
Hi, I'm Sherry Rudolph, North Shore Council PTSA President. Last time I saw you was just leaving for a national PTA convention. It was a wonderful, inspirational time. Got to kind of see that our goals are in line with what they're kind of doing this thing where everything's doing it now as if it's 2020. And that's actually what Catherine's already put in place at Washington State PTA. So Cindy, board member Cindy Jensen and I were the two that attended from our council. And so we were very excited to put our goals in line, and we already had our July 1st was our day that we had our board meeting already, so we're getting ready for all that. The national president, Otha Thornton, taught like one of our classes. The classes were all changed up. They did a lot of things different. It was very intimate, and so it was like a really small room. And Cindy's like, oh, the president's teaching our class, so I guess that was a different thing. So I was like, oh, okay, this is fun. And also, kind of changed our goals of what we were thinking to present to the general membership in September, so exciting. Also exciting is that for the next 2 years, National State PTA President is former Washington State PTA President Laura Bay, so Washington will be first and foremost, so that's exciting too. Very inspirational to watch her install as president. We will be front row for the next 2 years, so 2 good years to go to convention. And then also exciting was to witness the advocacy from start to finish, because our Region 6 legislative chair is Heidi Bennett, and she is the one that brought forward the higher education, the tuition lowering. She's the one that lobbied and testified, you know, along with other people. But from PTA, that was Heidi's baby the whole way, and so very exciting to see that come into fruition. To see that advocacy works. And so we also at National Convention spent time with Everett Council. Quite a few of their members were there. They had won an award with the state. And to talk about our similar problems with overcrowding and to be able to partner together to advocate in Snohomish County is going to be exciting. So we have some plans in the works to get together and do that. And so that was great to have a partner in that way. And then also coming up with our new calendar, we'll let Kimberly know our meetings. We have some changes potentially in the works. We're thinking of going outside this building, actually maybe traveling around for our meetings next year and changing up our training. We found out we're the only ones that require training September and May. Found out a lot of stuff talking to other councils, so it's been exciting. We're ready to make some changes. Hopefully you'll be excited too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. I don't see any other associations. Public comments? No, nobody signed up for public comments, okay. So we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion, questions on these items? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Somehow I lost it.
Try joining the meeting again,
Okay.
just to see if it's.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you. All right, that does pass unanimously with the 4 of us present. Next item on the agenda is the second reading of board policies 7240, district fundraising, 7325, food and beverage consumption, 7410, system of funds and accounts, 7422, annual financial and statistical report, and 7450, travel expenses and reimbursement. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. And that also passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is information item. First up is the district budget status report for May. Do board members have any questions for Lydia on this? Typical report. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next, which is the district fee schedule for the 2015-16 school year. Board member McCravey sent in some questions. About program fees. I think missing from the list was the before school music, which
Actually, it's on the,
It's on district fees too.
district fees.
Last one,
yes, that's
Right.
right, the
Yeah,
final
and-
attachment, district fees to the board.
No change on any of those. Any other questions?
I just had a question on the field one, and I certainly don't open Pandora's box here, but it reads like the fees have not changed since 2011. Is that possible, that we haven't raised the rates in 4 years?
Go ahead.
What was your question?
So in the field use fees, in big bold letters, it says new fee schedule as of September 2011.
Yes.
Is that just the schedule has been that way, or the fees have not changed in 4 years?
Your fees has not changed in 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a reason why?
Yeah, so we're going through, this year we're going through a assessment and comparing ourselves to all of our neighboring districts and sort of regionally to see how
See
we
where
can-
we're at.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah.
Great.
And typically we have to give our users at least a year notice so they can adjust their fees to the
Right.
parents.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I would like to ask a question actually about the district fees. And similar situation, I know that the fees are not changed, and I was looking at the before school music fee as well. And so I don't think this is a financial question per se, but if we are going to look at evaluating fees for field use, and we're starting to come out of kind of the recessionary mindset from Olympia, would it make sense also this year to kind of look at our fees district-wide, especially the ones that got jacked up quite a bit in the recession, and see if it might be, specifically the before-school music, 225, that is one that comes up quite a bit because there are some families that can't afford it. And so would it make sense for us to take some time next year? I don't think we had time in the 10 days from Olympia, but
It certainly could. We had talked at one point about possibly removing that fee in conjunction with looking at perhaps removing the transportation associated with the elementary music program. We bandied that about a little bit. That was part of the start time.
right.
One of the many start time discussions. We haven't looked at the fee in particular. Our focus has really been more on trying to stabilize those fees. I'm trying to remember what they increased from in 2009-10, which was the last increase. I don't remember exactly what that was, but certainly as the elementary grade reconfiguration task force is looking at what an elementary music instrumental model might look like post-grade reconfiguration, I think we're open to the fact that that could be a very different model that would have a different fee structure, a lower fee structure, or perhaps no fee structure associated with it, depending on what the service model ends up looking like. Is that accurate, Kathleen?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
I think that Dawn wanted her comments read publicly.
Do you want to go ahead and do that?
Or you can do it.
There's, I think they're at each, she wanted to be sure that the questions were answered so that all board members hear the answer.
She's wanting them read publicly for the record, though.
Reading. Okay, yeah, we can certainly do that.
Did you understand? I mean, did you?
I'm seeing that she wanted all board members to hear the answer, so.
I think maybe since it's in front of us and we don't have her here. Do you
Happy,
mind?
happy to do it, or you can read it, whatever you like. So on the information, so this is on the district fee schedule. In the list of fees, the program fees are under the district fees to the board, so they actually are on the schedule. But before school music program fees, I've been clear for years that I do not like how this fee has become so large it's prohibiting access to many in our district. In our discussions, I thought there was going to be a recommendation from the district to lower that fee or drop it altogether. What is the district proposing about program fees of this sort for the next year? I think that's what Barry just answered in the discussion. I think that's been part of our discussion about equity and access and lowering or eliminating fees so that we make sure that anybody that wants to participate is able to. Board members have any other?
How do our fees for music compare to other districts? Or is there not really
We have a
comparison?
I don't know the specific answer to that. We need to do some research on that. I know our athletic fees are significantly lower than Lake Washington and Bellevue, but I don't know about the elementary music fee.
Not everybody has the same
Right,
type of
they may have
program.
different
It's a
service
little bit hard
models that
to
influence.
compare, and a lot of ours is driven by the transportation that we provide to get students to the program and then also again to their home school. So that's been part of it. But, okay, and I don't see any other questions. No. All right, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the preliminary budgets and first reading of resolution number 725 for the school year 2015-16. And Dawn did have a comment on this one. Since the study sessions are even less attended than board meetings, board business meetings, to give the community no more information than a list of huge amounts of their tax dollars we will be spending on unnamed or unidentified things in a 2-page report doesn't seem transparent at all. I would like a much more in-depth document detailing planned expenditures. I would appreciate it if the document was included in the next board meeting agenda attached to resolution 725. I want to know how much money is being budgeted for each of the summary points and anything else. My question during the study session would be, were these expenditures clearly explained to the public and how we would be using their tax money if they were approved? Sorry, the next sentence doesn't make sense to me. And do the expenditures match what we told to the community? So we'll have, just for the benefit of those in the audience, we'll have a study session on the budget after this. Our challenge this year has been, as you all know, that the budget didn't come out of Olympia until last Saturday, and the details are still unfolding, so, or a week ago Saturday. And then this is not on the agenda for approval tonight, of course. It'll be on the agenda in August for the first meeting, and there will be a public hearing that will be attached to that, as there always is. So the public is invited to come in and ask questions at that time as well. So, did board members have any other questions or comments on this particular agenda item?
So there has been circulating around a document from Bellingham School District that I sent to you and Larry that shows a detailed budget. It's 67 pages. It's quite long. I don't know that ours needs to be quite that long, but it gave a lot more information, and I felt like I understood Bellingham's budget better than I understand our own. And I know that we're going to have a study session, but I really appreciated how they broke it down into the different pie charts. They took the overall, categories and broke them down a little bit, broke them down into finer, more pinpoint categories. And I feel that that helps us to understand as a board, the global big picture when we can see the lower levels. So I would like to see in the future that we have a more detailed report, and that would be helpful to prepare for the study session as a board member.
I think if we go back to the January 13th, 3-year financial projections, that's something they give us throughout the year. So if we identify what it is we're looking for and what we want, staff is usually really good about responding and putting what we want into the report. I don't know, Larry, did you want to speak to the Bellingham budget?
Well, I don't know the history of that document. I haven't seen it prior to today, but Lydia has some connections with some folks up in Bellingham and can speak a little bit to what that document was based on and the status of it right now.
So historically in this district, the F-195, the preliminary budget, is due July 10th. This year it's actually due next Tuesday, July 21st. So in this district, we have not provided information before July. We usually tie our study session and our preliminary budget review to the F-195 document, so you have it at the same time. Bellingham elected to do a preliminary budget based on Governor Inslee's budget back from December. So unfortunately at this time, their budget is quite a bit off, and they have to redo it because Governor Inslee didn't have K-3 class size reductions. He didn't have full day kindergarten funding. So we can prepare earlier assumptions. We do prepare the assumptions like Janet said. We can provide more information on what those assumptions would result in. But historically in this district, we've opted to provide you the most accurate information that we have, but we can certainly review any other different presentations you might want next year.
So I appreciate the accuracy. I mean, forecasting on something that may happen is difficult, so I think that we've done a great job with that. But the framework is what I think might be helpful for us to have a discussion about in the future. Because they're, how they broke it down, I think it alleviates, for me, having to ask a lot of questions. I can get those answered kind of up front and feel like I have a better understanding of what the total budget is when I can see it broken down in those type of categories. But yeah, I think as far as what you said, that's accurate. I want to base it on something we don't know to the best of our ability.
And this year would have been next to impossible because we had 2 working days to turn it around, but certainly in the future, I hope that never happens again.
Yeah, so just looking at the framework and maybe we can have that as a future agenda.
Yeah, identifying what board members need and want.
And the public also.
And I'm happy to help with that too. That's something we've chatted about before, about, just getting some more description around the financials. I think it kind of helps everyone, so I'm willing to chip in too if you need.
Sure.
And the F-195 is on OSPI's website, and the public certainly has access to that once that's loaded, correct?
The F-195, we have hard copies today for the study session. OSPI does not load it until it's finally approved.
Right, but it will be available.
So it's usually sometime later in September.
Right.
Yes.
But eventually then the public could
Yes.
certainly, and it's
Yes.
crazy detailed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
And for the benefit of those in the audience that don't have F-195 in their vocabulary, it is the state required formula for building a budget, and it's what we do because that's what we have to do. So,
Right.
yeah. Great, thanks Lydia.
Thank you.
Anything else? Kimberly, did that address your question?
I'll bring it up.
Okay, all right.
Agenda.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the first reading of Board Policy 9270, closure of facilities. Board members have any questions on this?
Thank you for the clarification that we received. I appreciate that. And just just had a memory of this being a very long, long discussion we had the last time this came up before the board, so I was curious about the changes and I appreciate the answer.
All right, great. Seeing no other questions on that, we'll move to the next agenda item, which is the board reports and communications. And first up is a discussion about diversity training. And our tasks are really, first of all, to identify what kind of training we're looking for at our August 25th retreat. And then secondly, to decide upon who we feel best will meet the needs for that training. So you've been provided as part of this agenda item the two proposals. The Whiting is more of a proposal and the Hollins is more of an overview on what, including some of the work, the rest of the work that's being done around the action plan. But there's a lot of commonality and overlap and
Excuse me.
for sure just open it up for discussion on particularly the first part about what kind of training, and actually first I'll ask if board members had an opportunity to review the notes that Amy and I took from yesterday's meeting, and if not,
I don't see them at the dais. I thought they were going to be printed. Maybe I just, hold on a minute.
it looks like this.
Yeah, then I have not had a chance.
And I am going to recommend that we just take a moment and at least read the third page, which has the specific answer to the question about, given our role as trustees in charge of policy creation and oversight, what should we be focused on now and moving forward? And that was a question that we raised to the room. And I'm going to just give you a minute to read the answer there. We're working to see if we can project it.